about, I can't remember how many years back, 3-4 young people were at high school, in a Johannesburg high school. They came to our foundation. And they said to us that they, as young people, they have a problem. Because the history that we know, that history tells us one story, which that black people will always fail. And so we will look at the history, there's a history of slavery. We are taken as slaves. There's history of colonialism, we are colonized. There's apartheid, we are oppressed. There's nothing in the history that we read, this is what the young people say, which say that as young people we can succeed. They say we can see the problems in the country, in South Africa now. But we are not motivated to say anything about how to solve them, because we know for a fact that we will fail.
For centuries, Africa's story was told by others, written through foreign eyes and filtered through the language of empire. But across the continent today, a new rhythm is rising, a pulse that refuses to be silenced. From the streets of Lagos to the markets of Ouagadougou, from Nairobi's tech labs to Niamey's dusty plains, a generation has awakened. These are not the children of the empire, they are the architects of a new dawn. For decades, Africa's wealth built distant nations, its gold, oil, and people powered foreign empires while its own children were told to wait, to obey, to hope. But that obedience is dying. The youth of Africa are standing up, demanding not just freedom, but ownership. In Mali, Assimi Goïta stood before the world and declared, "We are no longer anyone's colony." In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore became a symbol of a generation that refuses to kneel. This isn't just about politics, it's about reclaiming identity. A generation once defined by dependency is now writing a new narrative, one of defiance, innovation, and rebirth. This is the story of how the old empire crumbles, not with war, but with awakening, and how a new Africa, proud and unstoppable, rises in its place. To understand the new revolution, we must face the ghost of the old one. The empire never truly left Africa, it simply changed its clothes. When flags were raised and independence declared, the change shifted from visible to invisible, from whips to policies, from conquest to control. The Berlin Conference carved Africa into pieces that never fit. Lines drawn by strangers became borders that separated kin. Economies were wired to serve Europe's appetite. Mines in Congo, cocoa in Ghana, oil in Nigeria, all extracted, exported, and exploited. And when resistance grew, new tools emerged. Debt, trade agreements, and military bases. It was called partnership, but it smelled of the same old empire. Yet every empire underestimates its victims, because suffering breeds strength. And strength, once awakened, cannot be re-enslaved. In the 1960s, leaders like Nkrumah, Lumumba, and Sankara envisioned an Africa united and self-reliant. But one by one, they were silenced, assassinated, overthrown, or isolated. Still, their ideas refused to die. They lingered in the hearts of the youth, waiting for a new generation to pick up the torch. Now, that generation has arrived. They no longer speak in whispers, they speak in code, in art, in revolution. The spark began in the streets, from Khartoum to Lagos, from Niamey to Bamako. The youth are no longer protesting just against presidents. They are protesting against systems, against dependency, inequality, and foreign domination disguised as friendship. In the Sahel, soldiers led by young officers decided enough was enough. They expelled foreign troops, reclaimed their resources, and redrew alliances. To the world, they were called rebels. But to millions of Africans, They became symbols of courage. This is not an anti-Western movement, it is an anti-injustice movement. It is the cry of a continent tired of being a pawn in other people's chess games. From the mines of Niger to the gold fields of Mali, people are asking, who truly benefits from Africa's wealth? And slowly, painfully, the answer is changing. In every African capital, the same message echoes, we are not poor, we are being robbed. This awakening spreads beyond politics, into music, literature, and online movements. African youth are no longer begging to join global conversations. They are starting their own. TikTok poets quote Sankara. Gamers in Nairobi remix Pan-African beats. What began as resistance has become renaissance. True independence is not declared, it's built. For decades, Africa's economies were designed to serve foreign interests. Even its currencies, like the CFA franc, remained under foreign control long after the flags changed. But now, young economists and leaders are rewriting the rules. They talk of monetary sovereignty, digital currencies, and continental trade. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, the same nations defying military dependency, now discuss creating a self-governing regional economy. Across the continent, the spirit of creation replaces the culture of extraction. In Nigeria, innovators are turning waste into energy. In Ghana, chocolate is being produced from local cocoa instead of exported cheaply. In Kenya and Rwanda, tech startups are building platforms that connect African buyers directly, cutting out Western middlemen. For the first time in modern history, Africa is feeding itself, technologically, financially, and spiritually. But change invites resistance. The global powers that once fed off Africa now watch uneasily as the continent grows confident. When contracts are cancelled, they warn of instability. When Africans seek new allies, they speak of risk. But the youth see through the language of fear. The true revolution is not fought with weapons, it's fought with Wi-Fi. Every innovation, every app, every classroom is a battlefield where Africa takes back control. And with 60% of its population under 25, Africa holds the most powerful demographic weapon on earth, youth. This generation does not remember the empire, but they live with its scars. And they have decided to heal them by rewriting what it means to be African. They are the children of independence, but the parents of innovation. They no longer see Africa as a victim, they see it as the future. A designer in Kigali collaborates with a coder in Abuja. A filmmaker in Accra premieres her work globally through YouTube. A farmer in Malawi checks global prices on his smartphone. This is Pan-Africanism reborn in the digital age. The youth are not just demanding inclusion, they are building alternatives. From the #AndSARS movement in Nigeria to the Sudanese revolution, from renewable energy startups to AI labs in Nairobi, Africa's youth are turning rebellion into reconstruction. And through it all, they carry the same message: we will define our own destiny. For the old empire, this is the real defeat, the loss of control over imagination. Because once a generation learns that power lives within them, no empire can rule again. They were anchored not as nostalgia, but as pride. They rap in Swahili, code in Python, and campaign in their mother tongues. They no longer seek validation, they seek vision. Africa's dawn is not a prophecy, it's a process. And that process is already underway, powered by millions of small acts of courage. Each startup, protest, and invention is a thread in the same tapestry, a continent reclaiming itself. The old empire collapses quietly, not with bombs, but with the birth of self-belief. In the north, new partnerships rise from Cairo to Khartoum. In the west, the Sahel stands united against chaos. In the east, innovators turn ideas into global revolutions. In the south, a generation heals through inclusivity and technology. The empire once divided Africa with borders. Now, Africans are dissolving those lines, through trade, art, and connection. This is what Nkrumah dreamed of, a united Africa, not as a government, but as a consciousness. and while it may take time, it no longer feels impossible. Because belief has changed sides, and that is how empires die. Africa's youth are no longer asking what the world can do for them. They are asking what they can build for the world. They are showing humanity how to survive through community, how to create from scarcity, how to lead with compassion. The fall of the old empire was never the end. It was the beginning of a new rhythm, a new power, a new civilization grounded in Ubuntu. I am because we are, and so, to the world, Africa speaks once more, in its own voice, its own language, and its own destiny. We have awakened, the empire has fallen, and the future is ours to build.